We do want to touch on China, though. Investors digesting the country's weekend press conference regarding more stimulus. Our Eunice is live in Beijing with the latest. Morning, Eunice.
Hey, Carl. Well, the government is attempting to send a signal to the market that it does indeed want to support the struggling economy. However, it's left investors guessing exactly what the scale and the specifics of that plan is going to be. Over the weekend, the finance minister held a very anticipated a press briefing, I should say, and he focused a lot on the need to address the local government debt, saying that these would be the most powerful steps in years to tackle these problems, including like a one-time debt swap program. Also mentioned the effort to address the problems in the property sector, saying that they would expand funding for unsold homes through special bonds that would go to the local governments. And then finally, the authorities had hinted that there would be ample room for deficit expansion, so greater government borrowing. Now, some investors were expecting to hear more. Most people wanted to see a firm headline figure when it came to fiscal spending. However, others saw the briefing more positively. For example, Bank of America called it a policy pivoting point. And of course, there's still anticipation that we could see some specifics down the road in the coming weeks when there's going to be a committee meeting at the end of this month. Now, the divergent views, as you could expect, played out in the markets, both in Shanghai as well as in Hong Kong and in the U.S. now. The need, though, for this effort became more apparent. We had a series of bad market numbers. For example, the core inflation figure was out over the weekend. It hit a new low since 2021. Export and imports figures came in saying that they were going to grow far less than expected for September. And then the credit and bank growth numbers also hit fresh lows. So a lot of reasons for the government to take some stronger action. Guys?
Eunice, we got these possibilities of further stimulus. At the same time, we've gotten reports about government officials detaining Taiwanese manufacturing personnel at a Foxconn plant. Yeah. Today, Jim mentioned these military exercises, which Taiwan says is a record number of military aircraft, 125.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's led to a lot of confusion about whether or not companies would want to do business here. You mentioned Taiwan. One of the founders of UMC, big chip company, was sanctioned as well. So you have all of this kind of mixed messaging. And in fact, the authorities here just today said that they wanted to help support private business and to try to get rid of, they said, these efforts that sometimes are illegally either detaining people or confiscating goods. Like they want to try to get rid of all of that. And so they said that this is going to help support a private business. But it's, you still need to do a whole lot to get the confidence back up here.
Eunice, back to sort of the question about stimulus and the specifics, as you mentioned. What is going to be a sign, or when are we going to know? It seems obviously it's different there than it is here. So what are we really looking for when it comes to specifics? Do you have to wait and actually see the actions take place?
Well, that's the big question. I mean, a lot of people have been wondering what it's really going to take for the government to come in with bigger action. We know that the authorities here are very concerned about the risks, that they have the memory of the stimulus that they had in place in 2008, 2009. After that crisis, they don't want to have to deal again with those big risks. So they have that on their mind. And also there's a lot of discussions here about whether or not the authorities here, especially Xi Jinping, has an ideological bent that, he's talked about how he doesn't like welfareism, what he's described as welfareism, so doesn't want to give out handouts. So there's a lot of discussion as to that perhaps that's another reason why it appears that the authorities here have been slow walking a bigger stimulus.
But Eunice, I'm confused to follow up with what David's saying. You can buy back all the stock you want. I don't know how much stock people have there. But it's the apartments that go down makes it so it's deflationary. Unless your apartment goes up, why would you buy an apartment? And isn't the stock market too small to impact China?
Well, the stock market impacts China in the way that people look at the sentiment, right? So the authorities here have been jumping in, kind of trying to prop up talk up the market here, and that helps to boost sentiments, which is kind of what they're trying to do, which is to boost confidence here. But as you said, most people don't have their money in the stock market. Very, very few people, actually, and more people would be putting their money into the property sector, but that continues to decline.
Eunice, busy weekend for you guys. Appreciate you bringing us up to date. Eunice Yoon in Beijing tonight.